Okay, so let's look at some cryptocurrency risks in this presentation. Okay, so there are many different types of cryptocurrency around. Bitcoin is obviously one of the most popular, but there are other ones: Ethereum, Ripple, Litecoin. We'll have a look at IOTA a little bit later, and there is thousands of these cryptocurrencies on the market. So you can see there's over 1,500 of these. So we'll have a look at some of the risks around cryptocurrencies and really understand about how we can improve their protection. Okay, so here's the basic model of how our cryptocurrency payments work, roughly. They're not all the same, but this is certainly the way that, that Bitcoin works. So in the traditional model, Bob trusts his bank and Alice trusts her bank, and they hope there's going to be a transfer of funds between them. So Bob finds out what Alice's bank details are, the sort code and the ID, and then sends a transaction to his bank. His bank then gets in contact with Alice's bank and makes the transfer. So this can take days or even weeks for it to go through. But the good thing is that Bob trusts his own bank and Alice trusts her bank, and hopefully the trust infrastructure can work in between. In a cryptocurrency world, Bob creates a transaction for Alice. So he will get Alice's ID, and then he will sign a transaction to say that he will pay Alice a certain amount of bitcoins in this case, and then sign it with the transaction with his private key. He then adds his public key on to the transaction, and miners will pick this up and agree a consensus as to whether Bob actually has enough currency in his account, and also that he hasn't double spent. This then gets added onto the blockchain, and then the transfer will have been made. Okay, so what we have is that in Bitcoin, every 10 minutes, the miners take all the transactions that have happened, and then we'll race to find the required hash for the block. So what's one of the most profitable crimes around, and the chances also of not being caught for that crime? Well, one crime at the current time is Bitcoin or cryptocurrency hacking. It happens quite a lot with inside ICOs because there is a lot of users waiting to make payments, but there are a great deal of crimes around where cryptocurrency has been stolen. Along with this, it can happen that users lose their wallets or lose the password so that their coins can go missing. And at the current time, there's a great deal of scanning of wallets just now. So a scanner will come in and look for different names of wallets, looking for backups of the wallet and so on. And we can see here an example scan where a scanner or a botnet type scanner is coming in looking for different names of files on a web infrastructure. And it happened here where this person set up a honeypot, and we can see here that the transactions are being sought for, and for it to appear actually on a public blockchain. So to give you a background of how this actually happens, so in the Bitcoin network, we start off with a randomly generated 256-bit key. It's then generated into what's called a WIF key or a base 58. Base 58 basically takes out some characters from the base 64 type conversion, and we end up with his private key. We then use elliptic curve digital signature to be able to create a public key. The public key is twice as big as the private key, and it also has a 04 at the start to identify that this is a Bitcoin public key. If you're interested, what happens is that we create a gradient, we create a point on the elliptic curve, and then we project that point up through the elliptic curve to give us a second point on the elliptic curve. And this is the XY coordinates of that point. We then go through a SHA-256 and then a RIP AMD 160-bit hash, and then finally we create a base 58 public key, and that's the address that we see on the public blockchain. Okay, so here's how it happens. Bob sends to Alice his public identifier, and then Alice will use her private key to sign the transaction, and then that's given to the miners. Okay, so here are some of the risks. So a particular risk, and especially in ICOs, is that Bob is waiting to make a payment to Alice, such as for an investment in a new company, but Alice reveals her login details to Eve, or Eve spoofs an email address from Alice. So just before Bob is to send the transaction, Eve sends an email saying, "Hello, it's Alice, could you send some bitcoins to this address, thanks." And then Bob will sign that transaction and will sign over his bitcoins to Eve. Another one is a wallet creation trick. So this happened recently with IOTA, that this site here set up a fake site that appeared at the top of the Google list. The advertisement said that they would create an IOTA wallet which needs a random seed of 81 characters. So it looked as if it was a perfectly valid site, but unfortunately the site asked for a whole lot of details which gave away the password of the wallet that was being created. And this is at here. There was a GitHub associated with the site. And here was the site here. So this was the fake IOTA site that was generated. So you can see here the website looks perfectly valid. So if somebody wanted to create an IOTA wallet, they would go here and then get asked some details, and it would create the wallet for them. Unfortunately, whoever created the site was actually creating a backdoor. Okay, so it had even a GitHub associated with it. This is the GitHub here. The GitHub's now been taken down. So there's the GitHub, and it had the code there, and it was basically a fake website that stole user details. The other method that can be used is is to crack open the wallet. So if the wallet is found, then it can cause problems in that the public and the private key can be revealed, in which case an intruder can then actually take the create a transfer. So the way it's normally done is that we have a random seed that comes in with say random words here, goes into a seed generator, and then we create the wallet from here. The wallet is then protected by a password, and this is probably the weakest area in Bitcoin, in that the password can be quite simple and could be open. Along with this, it might be complicated, and the user might not be able to get back into the wallet. Okay, so we can create our Bitcoin wallet, and I'll show you an example of this here. Okay, so in this case I'm using Electrum, and what we'll do is we'll run our wallet. We'll create our wallet on our local machine. If possible, always put it onto a USB stick and then run it from there. So we'll just run this program. And I'll show you how the wallet is created. Okay, so we'll just manually connect to a server. Okay, so we're going to choose our new wallet. So we'll call it default wallet 123. And we're going to go for a standard wallet. If possible, go for multi-factor ones. But we'll just go for a standard wallet, and then we'll create a new seed for it. Okay, so we'll go for a standard wallet, and we see here it's giving us some random seed here. So what we need to do is to remember that, or to write it down on a piece of paper, which is secure. So don't keep the this seed value actually beside the wallet. We can also scan in a code here, our QR code. Okay, so we can generate that, and now we need to remember it. So we'll just go back and we'll copy and paste, which we shouldn't really do. Just go back, and then what we'll do is we'll copy it. Okay, and then we'll go to this next page. We'll type it in. Okay, so it's now generating this elliptic curve. The random generator has been will be created from our initial seed. So let's try a password here. So I'll use the password of Bill Test. Okay, then we'll create that, and that should have created our wallet. Okay, so now we have our wallet. We can send and receive values. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and save a copy. And I'm just going to put it in here. Okay, so here we are. So what we'll do is that we'll just take a copy of that wallet. So that's what the wallet looks like. That's a base64 format for the wallet. And then we'll come over here. So what I'll do is I'll put it in there. actually created. So let's say we've lost the password, or to assess the security of the wallet. So we can use a tool such as this, which is BTC Recover, which will communicate with many different wallets. Okay, so what I've done here is I've created a list of passwords. So the new one I've added is Bill Test. Okay, so we'll go and assess this. So I have the Python, I've downloaded the Python files, and what we're going to do is run this command here. Against the wallet I've just created, and that's it there. Okay, so we're running the Python script with a password list, and then against the wallet, and it's now trying these with different passwords, and it's found it here. Okay, so you can see it wasn't too difficult because I had used it from a standard password. Okay, so the weakness definitely of wallets is this password. So there's what we did there. We took our wallet data, we took a password list, and then it was able to find it fairly quickly. So inside this program we can do things like having tokens. So with the tokens we can take a list of well-known passwords that we've possibly used, and the tokens will then build them up into strings. We can also do mutual exclusion, so for each line we can actually define which ones should not be used together. So in this case we can build test 1, and so on. We can also make sure that each string has one of the words. So in this case we add Bill here, and it will be used in all of the ones that we're going to define. So the test Edinburgh wouldn't be one, but Bill Test and Bill Edinburgh will be there. We can anchor the password to be able to create the dictionary. So if we put this character here, it will appear at the start. If we do $, then it will appear at the end. We can define our password list, the maximum number of tokens that we bring together, and we can even define if we have had typos. So maybe we've typed a password and we've kept the caps lock on, so the Python tool allows us to be able to do that. We can have swapping of characters, that we might have got characters around the wrong way, I before E, and so on. We can repeat characters, we can delete ones, and then we can look at different upper and lowercase characters. So what should you do when you're creating your Bitcoin wallet? Well, you need to use at least 12 characters, and make sure there are numbers and symbols, capital letters and lowercase letters, and they're sprinkled about and aren't automatic at the start and the end, and so on. Don't use dictionaries that come from a well-known dictionary. Don't use words from a well-known dictionary or combinations of them, and don't rely on substitutions such as an S changed into a 5, an O changed into 0, and so on. Okay, so that's shown a few different cryptocurrency risks. Please be safe with your Bitcoin wallet and your cryptocurrency wallet. Thank you.